Well, no one knows better than I do how hard it is to fill the chair of those we know, we love, and respect. A year ago, Mike and I shuffled chairs here, and I took over as producer and host of this program. Before that, Mike took the reins from one of his mentors and friends, Rod Gillette. Over the 18 years and 3 moderators of this program, you've seen and heard the show evolve and change. So I guess you could say I was able to relate in some ways when this came on my TV Sunday morning.
Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
From NBC News in Washington, this is Meet the Press.
And good morning. Obviously, it's a pretty big honor for me to be sitting in this chair as the 12th moderator of the program, following in the footsteps of the likes of Martha Roundtree, Lawrence Spivak, Tim Russert, and of course, David Gregory. And as you can see, we're making a few changes around here. As I like to say, we're living in a house as we remodel it, so the program in this studio will continue to evolve over the coming months. But what better way to start off my first show than with an exclusive sit-down with the President of the United States.
Chuck Todd looked a bit jittery at the start of Sunday's program, but calmed as the hour progressed. That pressure is understandable, and as Todd told CNN's Brian Stelter, he thinks the public has a bit of a right to lay it on him.
There's this perception that Meet the Press is broken, and I don't know if I agree with it, but do you? Is it broken?
No, I don't agree that it's broken. I think there is. I look at this challenge as different from what some, I think, media critics see it as. I look at it as, I think political journalism is going through the same issues that Washington politicians are going through. I think the public, their frustration with Washington, they've lumped us in the media as part of that frustration, that we don't get it. Though in the same way that Washington politicians don't seem to get what's going on in the rest of America, I think they think the media is doing that. So I think symbolism-wise, the political journalists are front and center of the they don't get it. So I think what's quote-unquote broken is the credibility of us in the media channeling the frustrations of Americans.
Thoughts on the show as you saw it on Sunday?
Well, first of all, I think the fact that Chuck Todd does not look like the well-coiffed, tanned TV anchor host that we sometimes see was playing well for him. And almost every media critic who looked at his first show was giving him the benefit of the doubt, was talking about the deep respect he has in Washington, the deep knowledge he has of the subject, the fact that he doesn't look like a TV host, even, basically giving him credit for trying to get some answers out of President Obama when, as we've said before, one of the biggest problems for Sunday shows is that politicians now know how to avoid the kinds of questions, the tough ones, that people used to ask, like Tim Russert and maybe like, we hope, Chuck Todd.
And he's been very upfront about the idea of the show being a work in progress, including new segments that they're testing out. Some of the titles of those: Who Needs Washington, What Everyone in Washington Knows but is Afraid to Say. Panelists who were on there were, I think, 7 guests that he had on there as analysts. Not the stodgy talking heads you were used to from seeing on Meet the Press going back decades. In fact, one of them from BuzzFeed had his sleeves rolled up and there was a whole lot of ink showing. Is this the Sunday talk show for the next generation?
Well, I think it's going to have to be, because the generation that had been watching it beforehand, they're passing on. And they also have other things that they're having to compete against. I mean, 3 letters come to mind: NFL. So for Chuck Todd to be starting as the new host of Meet the Press on the Sunday that the NFL cranks up for 2014, it's
definitely some counter-programming.
That's some serious counter-programming there. So he's going to be running up against some serious competition.
I like the fact that he had on a couple of younger panelists. He also had on Andrea Mitchell. I like the fact that he went out and had a segment, Take Us Outside the Beltway, interviewing, people from communities, politicians outside of Washington. But, he also had on President Obama. And frankly, I'm not sure he can have it both ways, although NBC would like to have it. The gravitas and attracting all those traditional viewers back to their show instead of to the other competitors. But I don't know that you can do that and have edge. It's hard to imagine how you do both of those at the same time.
And I think part of it is just the segmentation of television news now. And now the Sunday morning talk shows themselves are having to deal with that. So I think he's trying to bring something new to the table. And what's going to happen is that you're going to have a certain segment of the audience that goes toward that, and then you're going to have a certain segment that's going to go with Bob Schieffer and a certain segment that's going to go with ABC, whoever their permanent anchor is going to be, because they seem to switch people in the chair often
pretty regularly.
If anybody can do it, at least can bring back the traditional viewers who want to know about the Washington power structure and all that, it should be Chuck Todd. If he can't do it, nobody can.